Good morning. This is my video submission for the challenges and opportunities of e-learning. And I'm submitting the video. While I'm filming this video, I've got my notes on the screen, so I'm just glancing down to make sure that I'm on track. So, having been an in-person, face-to-face instructor over the past 18 years, I found through experience that not only is technical expertise required to teach any given topic, you also have to have instructional skills. And in my mind, I think of those as people skills combined with strategic and planning skills. Now, with the advent of e-learning, I think one of the greatest challenges that we face as instructors or instructional designers have to shift their mindset from in-person training to online related training is the two things that we face actually. One is we have to have technical expertise, we have to have instructional skills, but we now have to know about technology that we never had to know about before. And the second is that we have to consider things from the learner's perspective in a much deeper way than we ever had to, at least as instructors. Because as an instructor for an in-person training session, seagulls, for an in-person training session, I can gauge the room and everyone's interest level and amount of engagement from looking at them. And you get a sense over time based on eye contact, body language, how people are talking or engaging or not engaging, whether they're picking up what you're putting down. And in an online environment, that interface does not exist in the same way. So, for example, I think of online learning in two different branches. I think of it as e-learning courses, and that's where you go to the website to buy the $30 course, and it takes you 20 minutes of sitting at your computer pressing buttons, waiting for the course to end, and you get your little certificate. So I think of that as an e-learning course. Where the other type of online related training I think of is online training, which is different in my mind than e-learning. Online training is what we're doing right now, is where the instructor interacts with the students at their own pace to get assignments submitted, in this case, before August 24th. And so if it's an e-learning course that someone is developing, that no interaction type of course where there's no instructor there personally to manage it, that is incredibly hard. And I think that those type of courses can only really be used for a low level of technical knowledge. In my experience, I would love to see that improve, but right now that's all I can see it being used for. Whereas online learning courses can be used for the moderate to higher level of knowledge, and whether it's technical or emotional learning or anything that needs to be taught. Let's see. What can learners do to manage some of the challenges of e-learning? Learners need to be more proactive than they've ever been. I think often learners have had the attitude that when I do this course or when I sign up, I just have to put my body in the room, and then at the end of the day or at the end of the month or whatever it is, I'll come out with it with a certificate. And sometimes that's the case. Yet with online learning, that cannot be done. A student cannot be a passenger in this whole process because they've got the reins. And so what I like about online learning is it puts the learning process almost fully in the hands of the learner, where it always should have been in the first place. That's one of the challenges, in my opinion, with lecture-based teaching that's done out of universities, is that it's a formula that's handed to students and spoken at students, and they're supposed to somehow magically learn while having little interaction with it or practical application. So with this online learning environment, learners really have to step up, and they have to know that they need to step up. Online learners not only have to be more engaged, they have to learn new technologies. They have to learn how to use Moodle interfaces if they're working with Vancouver Community College, for example, and that might be outside of their comfort zone. So creating a warm, welcoming environment as one of the instructor's duties is a really important role. Just looking at my notes here. Oh yeah, another challenge that online learning instructors face, or I think would face, is their perceived value or contribution to the stakeholders, such as the client, organization, the school, the company, whatever it is, and essentially how they're perceived to be valued. So an in-person instructor, for example, could go in and be able to charge a certain amount of money per day or per hour for their work. And because they're working with 10, 20, 30, or 40 people at a time, it's easy to dilute that cost among many people and see that it's fair to pay someone $1,000, $2,000 a day, or $500 a day in, maybe the smaller schools or something. Whereas an online learning instructor, I don't think they get perceived the same way. I can also imagine that online learning instructors' time is very hard to be managed because they have X number of students times X number of assignments being submitted any time of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So whenever a course launches for an online learning instructor, it's pretty much go until the person stops teaching that course. And I can see that personally as someone who has a challenge with being overwhelmed with multiple projects. I could see it being something that's hard to handle from the instructor's perspective. So they would receive a lower level of perceived value from their employer and have a higher mental workload because they have to be able to manage many, many ongoing projects, students, at one time. So in summary, online learning can be wonderful. I see it, and it's two different branches, is the online learning where you're engaging with students, and then e-learning, which is where you just click at the screen and wait for your course to be done. Under the e-learning category, it's only useful, in my opinion, for technical, low-level of knowledge required. Online learning that's instructor-led can be much more effective because it engages learners. At the same time, the main challenges with online related learning is that the instructor and the student both have to learn new technologies that they might not be familiar with or comfortable with. That online learning environments must have a very supportive environment created for the students, and that the best thing about online learning as an advantage over in-person learning is that the student is essentially forced to be fully engaged in the process in order to get the value and their marks out of this process. I love that. Thanks very much.